Good morning, world. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Lagos. How are you all doing? You know how it is. Yes, yes, yes. I like to know how you are doing. Like to know that you are all very, very well. Um, Welcome to another inspiring episode of Up You With Ezinne, the show where we challenge perspectives, ignite purpose, and equip you to rise into your best self. Today's episode is one that I have been looking forward to most sincerely. I've been chasing down our speaker for weeks now. Okay? Because we're speaking with a woman of courage, a woman whose courage, consistency, and compassion have changed countless lives across Nigeria, especially the lives of women, girls, and children. She is a journalist. She is a writer. She is an activist, and she is one of the most passionate advocates for justice that our nation has produced. So, you're in the right place this morning. Let's do this, my beautiful people, finding self, finding purpose. As always, my name is Ezinne Kufrekanem, and I'm your host. Yeah, before we dive in, please take a moment to like and share this live stream. Apologies that we came a bit late to you. When something is good, when something is going to be good, that's when all the stuff begins to glitch, but we beat it. That's the important thing. We always beat it and we always show up. So let's spread the word and bring more people into this meaningful conversation. We're live on YouTube and Instagram. Follow us at Up You With Ezinne across all platforms and catch up on our past episodes, so that you don't miss a thing. That's why we tell you that we are 360-degree hands-on, because whatever your preferred channel is, you find us there. We are there ready and available to serve you, because we don't want anyone missing out on finding self and finding purpose. If you're just joining us, this is Up You With Ezinne, and you are very, very welcome. It's time to bring up our guest for today. You know, Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our guest today. Her name is Betty Abah, a Nigerian journalist, author, and human rights activist known for her passionate advocacy for women, girls, and vulnerable children. She is the founder and executive director of CEE-HOPE for Children's Health Education, Orientation, and Protection, an organization dedicated to empowering marginalized young people and families, especially in underserved communities like Makoko in Lagos and across several states in Nigeria. Her journey began in journalism, writing for The Voice, Newswatch, and Tell magazines, where she produced powerful investigative stories on social issues. Her work earned her several major awards, including the Nigerian Media Merit Award for Reporter of the Year, Shenka Investigative Reporting Award, and international fellowships such as the Alfred Friendly Press Fellowship in the United States and the Human Rights Defenders Fellowship, University of York in England. Through CEE-HOPE, Betty has led high-impact campaigns including Bring Back Our Girls, Justice for Ese Oruru, Justice for Ochanya, and the advocacy for free menstrual pads for girls. Her work has changed lives through education, rescue, and shelter for survivors of abuse. Rights, awareness, and empowerment programs that have touched thousands, if not even millions. Betty is also a gifted author and poet with 6 published books, including Sound of Broken Chains, Hotel King, and Mother of Multitudes, works that explore themes of justice, liberation, and hope. She has been recognized among Nigeria's 100 most impactful Nigerians, 100 most inspiring women, and 100 most influential civil society leaders. Driven by an unyielding belief in justice and equality, she continues to use her pen, and her platform to mentor the next generation and to fight for a world where no child's destiny is limited by circumstance. Dear everyone, world over, please join me to welcome the one, the only, the powerful, the phenomenal Betty Abah. Good morning, Betty. It's so good to finally have you on this show.
Good morning. My apologies for the glitches earlier. I'm so sorry, and I'm really, really happy to be here.
No, for you have to wait for a change. It's as simple as that. You have to wait for a change. It's as simple as that. So it's okay. We understand. Everyone is here. Thank you, all our viewers and listeners, for being patient. You know, when the soup is good, it takes a little bit of time to be done. So that's what was happening behind. But we are happy to be here, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So let's roll. Are you ready?
Yes.
Great. You've been described as one of the most consistent voices for women and children in Nigeria. What sparked your journey into advocacy? Tell us.
Uh, it is interestingly, I can't point a finger to it. I've always been empathic. I've always have empathy for persons around me, even from when I was a very young person. And what comes to my mind easily when people ask me would be my dad and my mom as the most inspiring figures for me in my childhood. Because my dad used to be like a village, a community health worker, and he helped people a lot, even when they had no money, in treating them ailments like malaria and other diseases in those days that caused a lot of suffering and also avoidable deaths. And my mom, especially, was extremely kind. She was known as a philanthropist. She was a businesswoman. And growing up, I saw so many persons living around us, children of our cousins and nieces, in-laws, and all of that. She was so nice that as at the time my mom died 3 years ago, she had over 20 children named after her by various persons, her in-laws, her neighbors, her business associates, her nieces, her relatives. They all wanted to just name their children after her in appreciation of how nice she was to them. Even some of those details of the generosity we didn't know until she had passed. And so we have so many Esthers in our families, our extended families, and in-laws, and all of that. So my mom remains an enduring figure for how one person can make so much difference in people's lives, and that it doesn't really. She wasn't like a billionaire. Maybe in those days she could be termed a millionaire at her level of influence and business, but she wasn't like extremely rich and all of that. But she made a lot of difference, and she cared for people even till she died in Lagos. She always cared about us. She always cared about people. She always said, "Oh, give money to this nurse, give money to this person," even in her deathbed. So my mom, I would say, will remain the most inspiring figure in my life for how you can touch your neighbor, how you can be selfless, and what difference you can make. We do this work, and then just speaking up for on behalf of someone who's oppressed, as trying to give a helping hand as part of our empowerment, give a grinding machine. I see, you see the light. I mean, you see them uplifted from poverty. So I've come to know that it doesn't really take so much to change people's life. Just picking up, just being there, and that continues to guide my daily life. And then also there was an incident in my childhood which I can never forget, which is also a major driving force for my advocacy, because advocacy makes so much difference, not just in little little giving, but it's like a spark, a transformative spark, and you change the lives of millions of people just by speaking up, just by calling for accountability, just by speaking truth to power. I was just about 9 years, and our house was about to be demolished back in Otupo in Benue State. Because the local government, I don't know what actually happened. They decided they were going to demolish the whole stretch of that area, and about 10 or 15 houses were going to be affected, and my house was one of the houses, and we had no clue as to what to do. We just knew we're given like 2 weeks notice, and my dad is a polygamist, 5 wives, as at the time 4 of them were living in that place with I think like 20 children. And I for not several nights I couldn't sleep. I said, so where are we going to go? They're going to chase us out of this place. They're going to demolish our house. Then a miracle appeared in the form of someone whose house was also affected. He was the deputy chairman of the, I think the NPP or NPN, I think NPP in Benue State at the time, the political party. He was also the mayor of the town, and his house was to be affected. And incidentally, his cousin or his nephew was the most prominent lawyer in town, and that was our saving grace. That was our saving grace. His name is late now, Barrister Omaku. He was so popular. He was the most prominent lawyer in town, and he took up the case against the local government. I had no idea because as at the time, I didn't start school till I was 9 at about that time. And that's another story altogether. So I had no idea what laws he used. Obviously, that's the construction or road they were going to construct was needless. That was an encroachment on people's fundamental human rights, on their housing rights. There was a need for them to enforce their housing justice, make a case for their housing justice, and all of that. It was, but we just knew that one day they just came back from the courts. He had sued the local government. And then they came back from the court and came to a part of the road where they were going to start the demolition. And he was in his wig and gown. And then he was speaking grammar. I had no idea what he was speaking. Like I said, I hadn't started school at that point. But we heard that the lawyer and the people and the survey people from the survey office were back from court. So we ran there to the center of that road, and the man was speaking and speaking and speaking, and everyone was listening to him. And as at the time they were when he finished, they drew the survey people started making some drawing. They were drawing, taking measurements, and as at the time he finished, everyone started clapping, and they told us that he had won the case for us from the court. And that's why our family house wasn't demolished. As I speak, that house is still there with my dad's oldest wife, who is about 90 years, still living there with some of his children and his grandchildren and all of that. So that was how that house wasn't demolished, and about 15 to 20 houses, I think, were not demolished and were not displaced, because I couldn't imagine where my dad was going to take all the entire family. He had just, I think, 3 rooms in the village. Were we going to move into that rooms, which had a wife and like 8 children already and all of that? So that really inspired me. But I didn't know that it was hiding somewhere in my subconscious, miraculously enough. I had forgot. It inspired me. I went to school and then I continued. I joined advocacy groups and all of that. But I didn't know that that was the subconscious inspiring and motivating force until several years later, when I had started working for families or communities like Makoko, especially Makoko, which constantly, and other informal communities across Lagos, which constantly came under the sledgehammer of the Lagos state government. The government to send thugs, armed personnel, and all of that, and they go to the community, some absolutely without any notice, and they will race down the community. A community like Otodogbame in Ikate was burned down in the middle of the night, and people were killed, people were shot dead, right in Lagos. I mean, right here in Lagos, April 15, 2017. And so, each time this happens, the child in me came out. The child in me in 1983 came out, and I began to see I began to imagine myself. I began to put myself in the minds, in the hearts of those children, how the trepidation they will experience, the fear of the unknown, because their life was going to be destabilized. When you you uproot a family from where they have known as a home, whether it's in Banana Island or in Makoko, I mean, the fear that the destabilization that will follow is actually unquantifiable, because families are uprooted from their immediate shelter, the businesses of the parents, because most of them do businesses around the communities, are uprooted. The children are uprooted from school. And so these are some of the things I've spoken against over the years. And we've seen, in some cases, we've seen successes, not all, but communities that are about to be demolished. I would say, no, you've not followed the laws on adequate housing. The United Nations has a rule, has a policy, an entire global policy on adequate housing. The need for prior informed uh, information, the need for adequate notice, for resettlement, for they need to adhere to housing, the fundamental human rights of those people, because we've actually human beings before we're actually rich, categorized into whether you are rich or poor, man or woman, fine or not fine. We are basically human beings, and the fact for every human being to be respected as a human being, first of all. So those are some of the things that have driven me over the years with regards to what I've done on housing justice, on children's rights, women's rights, and of good governance also. Because if you're Nigeria, ultimately we become a good governance advocate because we are practically victims of misgovernance. So on social media, everybody is a good governance advocate. So my mom, my dad, and uh, that thing, that experience in my childhood when I was 9 are some of the things that have motivated me. Of course, I've had mentors, motivators all over my life. My boss, who I continue to call my boss Nimubasi, and someone who helped me in being able to refine my writing and to put me on platforms I never dreamt of. Chief Danagbese, who just passed 2 days ago, were some of the persons who have shaped my life to who I've become today and who I'm becoming, because I'm far from reaching where God actually has ordained me to be. Thank you. I know this is very long. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But it's good we take the long one so everybody gets to know who you are.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
While you were speaking, some things were jumping out at me, and I was getting excited in my spirit. I like the fact that you played fundamental role in shaping who you turned out to be. And I like the fact that that lawyer, left a very good impression for you. So in your mind that you could take up with. Could that be why you went into journalism? Because when you were talking, you were saying he was speaking big, big English, big, big English. And because you hadn't started going to school, it was really sounding very nice to you. So I'm wondering, could that be what led you into investigative journalism? And then the last thing you said that hit me was we are first human beings before becoming rich or poor. Honestly, if you don't say any other thing on this show, and that is all you have said, that's a very good nugget for us to live with, for each and every one of us to remember that we are first human beings before any other thing and to treat each other as human beings. But tell me, because I believe that, people do not know how huge they are until other people are talking about them or you're in circles where they're being spoken about. You are very huge in the space where you operate and you are held in very high esteem. And I'm wondering, what role did journalism play to get you to where you are today?
Thank you very much. I would say that writing, I wouldn't say, to respond to your earlier question, I wouldn't say that that particular experience in my life triggered the writer in me, but
Hmm.
somewhere it was hiding in the subconscious that came on later in life to begin to
Hmm.
speak truth to her and to see how advocacy can change the lives of so many people at once, like instantaneously. I would say that writing came to me naturally. I didn't plan to be a writer. I just started writing at the age of 10. And I think it's just a natural talent. My late uncle, who was a military man, used to write. He stayed with us. He used to write and all of that. So I guess maybe it's something that flows. I don't know if it's genetic. I wouldn't say, but I think it's a natural talent. And I discovered it when I was 10. I would sit down and then I'll write long letters to my cousins, my uncles and nephews and nieces who were staying in Lagos. And some of those letters never got to them. Some got to them, asking them to buy me this, buy me that. I thought that Lagos actually flew with milk and honey and you could find money on the street. I thought everyone in Lagos had access to so much money. So I'll just write letters. So it started with letter writing in 1984 when I was 10 years. I would just write letter. And then I started writing imaginary letters. And then writing letters. Because at that time, funny enough, there was a lot of, they say, oh, this person is toasting to become this person's boyfriend. This person is toasting to become this person's girlfriend.
I
I know
know
that kind
that,
of
yeah.
socialization at that early age. I was just 10 and I wasn't good looking. Nobody was toasting me. Like I was 10, literally 10. But I would just write a letter to my imaginary toaster and say, please, I'm not interested in this relationship. This is actually the first
Mhm.
time I'm saying this. This is actually the first time I'm saying this either on air or even in private. But it just occurred to me now. I'll just write all kinds of imaginary letters, including to imaginary toasters. Say, please, I'm not interested. I want to go to school. I don't like you. I'll just write these things. So I was just always writing letters. And then from later, I started writing poetry. I started writing poems. I started writing essays. I would attend the Catholic church, and it was dramatically different from the Methodist church that I was used to. We had to stand up and kneel down like 20 times within the service. I said, "Oh, this is different."
I
Write
know,
about it.
right?
Yeah, visit the village, the New Yam Festival, and write about the masquerade. I was just always writing. And then I was just drawn to writing, to scholarship from that age of 9, 10. And then we're walking on the road, I'll see like a signboard. I will stand and write and start reading everything, and I'll get lost. So my mom and my sibling just nicknamed me AGK. There's a Nigerian, a soldier who fought during the war, and somehow he had mental health issue after that. Nobody thought about maybe seeing how this man could have been helped in terms of maybe he was reacting from trauma that he saw during the war. He had mental health problem, and then he went about with books, writing and writing about how much millions the Nigerian army was owing him and all of that. Already he had mental health issues. Maybe he was hallucinating and all of that. And because he was always writing, going around with books and his military wear, I was always writing on the floor and everything. They nicknamed me AGK, the village scholar. Then my mom and my siblings nicknamed me, so they'll just laugh at me and all of that. But I was just drawn to scholarship. I was just drawn, especially to writing. And because I lived in a polygamous home where there was a lot of complications, the complex a polygamous home can be very complex. There are a lot of children, several wives. You can have sometimes quarreling, people making up, and all of that. So I started writing poetry about the situation I found myself as a teenager in a polygamous home. And then my mom used to be very wealthy, and her businesses started going down. So that also was a major trigger for my writing at around 15, 16, 17 years. I started writing about the hardship we're going through in contrast to what we had experienced in the past. And so, and that was it. So when I got to the university, I was able to, I think my second year, the economic situation was really, really bad. I had a number of persons supporting me also because I thought I was quite promising. Then I got in touch with Dana Gbese, who incidentally passed 2 days ago. And I sent him some of my work. Hello.
You were muted a bit. The last we heard was you wrote to Dana Bese. May his soul rest
Okay.
in peace.
So sorry, please. I wrote to Dana Gbese. I sent him some of my works, some of my poems especially, and so he got interested and messaged me. I was still in school in second year. When I'm in Lagos, I should come around to see him, and that my poems are very promising, and I had a feeling that I was going to be a great writer in future, a great writer and poet in future. And so I kept that letter with me for several years. I'm sure I will be able to trace it. And so I came to Lagos and I met him. That was I was in second year then, 2017. And then he started supporting me. He will publish my work in Newswatch. He gave me some of his writing. He will give me money to go to school and all of that. He was extremely supportive. It was like the biggest celebrity I had seen at the point. And so in third year, I kept coming to see him during his holiday. He said, when you are through with school, that was 1998, I think. He said, when you are through with school, come and work in Newswatch. So in my third year, I already knew where I was going to work. And so when we're leaving school, I tell everyone, I'll give them my address, number 3, Billingsway. I'm going to work in Newswatch. And that was really, really for me, that was a major encouragement. And I think about a week after my youth service, I started working in Newswatch. So that was the first biggest platform I would get in my life to be able to work as a reporter in Newswatch. I was there for 3 years and 3 months. In the course of that, I had won a national award, the National Merit Media Merit Award for tourism. I had traveled abroad, I think 2 times to Sierra Leone on the platform of the World Bank, and my work was well received. And one funny thing was that in the course of working for Newswatch, it wasn't very easy for me because, but it was like going through the fire of refinement because Mr. Danagbese continues to be the best editor I've gone through. May God bless his soul. He will force you to do the right thing. Every must cross your T's and dot your I's.
Dot your
Every
eyes.
yes, you must write it excellently well. He has no room for incompetence. Absolutely no room. And so he was very, sometimes can be very stern, and so we're scared of him. Most of us were scared of him. But at the end of the day, our reports came out very well. So that was for me a major lifting that I got in life. Even after I left, after 3 years, joining Tel magazine, traveling abroad while I was in Tel for the Afro-Friendly Press Fellowship, having to intern with a newspaper in the US for 6 months and all of that. I think that was something, those were some of the liftings, the openings I had in journalism. That was also in a way compelled me to where I am today, brought me to where I am today, and also that's the ability to write, to express um, what's happening around, the ability to be able to capture my word, the ability to write and to amplify the voices of the voiceless is something that has gone that goes along with the advocacy work that I do.
Exactly.
It makes a whole lot of difference to be an advocate and a writer at the same time, because the writing amplifies the work to a very large extent. So when I returned
Exactly.
back from the media fellowship in the US, I only stayed back in Tel magazine for 2 years. I just wanted to jump right into the ditch of advocacy rather than writing. Journalism is actually very transformative. It makes a lot of difference. But I believe that with the combined skill of journalism and advocacy, I'll get much more achieved, because I'm not just going to write. I'm going to take sides, and I'm taking sides with the oppressed of the society. I'm taking sides with the voiceless. I'll use my pen to amplify the voices of the voiceless, and I just feel that I'm in a very good state. I'm in a very good place in life, and I believe that I'm fulfilling destiny. But when you said I'm very highly esteemed and I'm big, I don't think I'm big. I believe that God has bigger plans for me. And I have so many people, even right in this space in Nigeria, that I look up to. Like I mentioned, my boss, Nimubasi, the person who brought me into full-time advocacy, Mr. Akimbode Oluwafemi, who is the biggest tobacco control advocate in Nigeria, and and so many other people that
Thank
I look
you.
up to.
Thank
So
you very
I
much.
wouldn't
Thank
say I'm
you.
really big. I think I'm still trying to get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is also a hallmark of someone that is big. Humility. She has to acknowledge all the giants that she stood on their shoulders to get to where she's going to. My viewers, I hope we are all learning. When you get big, you do not forget that you climbed on shoulders of giants. And yes, thank you very, very much. It's interesting. Somebody put in the stream and said you started at an early age, and I actually agree. You know, your where is always very good when you realize on time what your strengths are, where your talent lies, and where your passion flows. You know, so yes, she did start at an early age to write and all of that. Now back to you, Betty. Thank you very much. I like the way you're explaining everything so that we can all understand and follow and understand why you are doing what you're doing and where you came from and where you are going to. Many people
Thank you.
want to be like you. Many people want to create change, but they feel very powerless. You know, they feel utterly powerless. They don't even know where to start. So, can you please tell us, in your experience, what does it really take for one person to initiate impact to resist the system?
Thank you very much.
Your microphone is off. Okay, while we wait for her to put back her microphone, she's muted from her end. Okay, she's back on. But I'll still
Okay,
acknowledge Adebayo Bennett. Thank you for your contribution. Yes, please go ahead, Betty.
okay. I think, like I said earlier, I was inspired by the fact that a single man stood and saved the lives of literally hundreds of people when I was age 9 by standing up to the local government authorities who were going to create an unnecessary link road that was going to displace so many dozens of families and literally hundreds of their dependents, family members, tenants, and all of that. So that was something that remained in my subconscious. And I believe that this has happened over and over again in history. I really wish that man were alive, Lawyer Omaku. We call him Lawyer Omaku for me to really appreciate him. We've seen it, like I said, in history over and over again. We saw Martin Luther King standing up. We saw so many people standing up. We saw Mahatma Gandhi standing up in India. And especially, I'm inspired by Martin Luther King. He could have kept quiet as a comfortable Baptist pastor and maybe a public speaker, but he decided to put his life on the line to speak against the racial injustice in the United States and to begin to speak for the need for equality. And that was how we had the black activism, black movement in the US. And you see that that changed the laws radically. And in the US now, apart from inferences, apart from under things that you don't really see racism so much as it was in the time of Martin Luther King, because one human being stood up and inspired millions of people and inspired changes to their policies. In we saw the difference that is it Mother Teresa made in India in terms of compassion to the dying. Millions and millions of people. We saw the difference that someone just close by here, Nelson Mandela made in South Africa. He put his life on the line. I mean, he could have been killed. You saw how violent apartheid was. And he made a lot of difference, setting his own black race free, reclaiming so many things they had lost to the white apartheid masters. And I will see that all of the time. Unfortunately, we don't see so much of that in Nigeria in terms of its political space. But we've seen in activism, we've seen, like I keep referring to my boss, Nimubasi, who has made so much difference speaking for environmental justice in the Niger Delta. We saw that in the life of Ken Saro-Wiwa, who spoke up. Ken Saro-Wiwa actually inspired my boss. So Ken Saro-Wiwa drew attention to the environmental justice in the Niger Delta, and at least we know what has been happening, and we've seen some changes. Agencies were created to provide relief, to provide infrastructural development for people in the Niger Delta. And so one person can make a whole lot of difference. Look, I can tell you that if we had not been speaking on behalf of the what we call slum communities, on behalf of the informal communities in Lagos, there would have been no informal community again. They would have been taken over by private estates, government officials, politicians conspiring with private developers to take
Yes,
over
I
land.
agree.
And I mean, they wouldn't have been here today. Let me give you an example. Something happened, and I think we're going to ask me that question, but I'm just so excited. Let me just talk about it. During the COVID-19 period, something happened. At some time, I think was it in May, I was at home and I got at about 8 or 9 a.m. At about 8 a.m. I got a call. Someone say, Betty, I know that you always demolitions, demolition rights at the back of my estate, and I need you to come here and see what's happening. Incidentally, that was during the lockdown. I think April or May 2020. That was at the height of the COVID-19 lockdown. Now, Lagos has the highest rate of infection of COVID-19, the highest rate of death, COVID-19 related deaths. Lagos was on a lockdown. Lockdown was being enforced throughout Lagos. Yet, the Lagos, some persons from the Ministry of Environment under Lagos State government went to a community and started pulling down houses. They were pulling down houses and sending people into the streets at the height of COVID-19 lockdown. And so someone called me and said, no, it's not possible. He said, Betty, this is happening. His name is Monday Ashibogu. He called me, he's a senior friend. I said, no, this is not possible. So it's happening now. Just come and see. So I just started getting prepared, and I sent one of our staff who lives close to the area. I said, go there and just let me know what's happening. Send me the pictures. So while I was getting prepared, he got there and he sent me the pictures. People had their loads outside of their homes. There were big the caterpillar bulldozers pulling down the homes. So I said, no way, this is unimaginable. So I went on Facebook, I went on Twitter, and I started calling out the Lagos State government. That is it possible that this is happening? This is COVID-19, and there's a lockdown, and then you are sending people into the streets. You are pulling down people's houses for whatever reason. This will even complicate issues because they're going to spread the infection. And I mean, is it even possible? Even if you think you have a right to pull down these houses, should it be done now? You can't. So it got to, we just realized that the governor was not aware that this was happening under his constituency. And to be fair, many of the demolitions happening, the governor is not aware. So I don't know how much in charge you are as a governor of the state. People have been, hundreds of people have been rendered homeless. You're not aware. People are carrying out, projects and activities, exercises under you, and you're not aware. How in charge are you as a governor? And so we got Aita Kaderia Ahmed, who is a major influential. She has a radio station. She's a big woman in the media space. So she tagged the governor and said, Mr. Governor, are you aware that this is happening? I just want to believe that you are not aware that this is COVID-19 period and people are being displaced, sent into the streets. It went viral on Twitter, on Facebook. People say, no, these people are demons. They are not human beings. How can you be doing this? So by evening, the governor put out a press statement and said he is halting the demolition. The ministry, the commissioner for environment, I think Tunji Bello, put out a statement. Okay, we're going to continue after the lockdown. Do you know, we got to know that this thing that was going on, it was there was a drainage around the area. They were trying to create a canal, and in the course of that, they started going into the community to demolish houses without prior notice. I think they got like 3 days notice or 5 days notice during the lockdown. And some people had some ulterior motive. We got to know that some persons were trying to start an estate around the period, and that's what they do. They just come, send people away, and build their private estate. As I tell you now, that community is still there. It is called Ifelodun in Okera. People still live there. They never went back to demolish the community. They never went back. They just came, walk on the canal, and then took their bulldozers and left. They never went because they wanted to demolish the entire community and take over in the name of trying to clear a canal. During COVID-19, they could not wait. The contractors could not wait because they didn't think that these urban poor people are human beings, that they needed to be extended compassion. They needed to also observe the COVID-19 period. They needed to be extended the right of notice and relocation. They thought they are just dispensable, and they have no idea that they will have any connection to anyone who is a journalist or an advocate. And that right now we work in Ifelodun. We continue to work there since after that event, and they are one of our most vibrant communities in Lagos, because I spoke up and I put it on social media, and a powerful voice like Kaderia Ahmed took it up and spoke up, and the governor had to back down and all of that. And there are so many instances, there's so many, Monkey Village, different places in Lagos where we will come and then they retreat back, because most of the time, I can tell you, these demolitions are illegal. They are complete floating violation of court orders. They are completely unnecessary. They are not extending any government goodwill to the people. I mean, there's nothing about government infrastructural development. Most of the time, 99% is all about individual interests. They're trying to take up the places, the working places, the mechanic workshop, the living quarters of the poor, so they could build big elitist estate that most of the time people cannot even afford to stay, rather than extending the grace, the resources that the state has to accommodate also the poor. They're pushing the poor more and more out of the state because they feel they cannot be accommodated in an urbanization agenda. I don't know, majority of people in Lagos, like over 70%, fall under the poor people. I mean, so when you continually drive people out of Lagos in the name of urbanization, which most of the time they're not just even government infrastructural development, are private estates owned by politicians and their cronies. So sometimes when we speak up, some of these things are halted, and I will believe that it's victory for democracy, it's victory for activism, it's victory for, I mean, for activism, for speaking up for the voiceless, and it makes us happy. But some of the time, they continue with impunity. But it's good that they know that people, the fact that they know that the people will speak up, people will challenge you, people will call you out, people will speak truth to power, that it makes such a big difference. And we're just happy.
Thank you very much. This story is really, really very touching, and I thank that you spoke up. Thank you for saving that community, because it would have been very terrible for them to have been thrown out uh, under such circumstances during COVID.
Thank
However, the question that I really answer for me is, so how do we raise another you? How do we raise another Nimo Basi? How do we raise another, because there are lots of people who want to speak up, paralyzed by fear. In answering, you talk to people who, they risk their lives. There's so much risk in what you do, and there's so much audacity. Is there enough training? Is there what do you drink? What makes you just go and say, well, I'm going on this?
All right, thank you very much. I will say that when you are a leader, in whatever space you find yourself, in the political space, in the religious space, in activism space, in the literary space, journalism space, and you do not raise people to take over from you, then you are not a real success. We're very, very much aware of that. I'm happy that there are shoulders for people that are able to climb, people like Minibasi. There's a noise somewhere. Okay. All right. So there are people like Nimubasi, Chief Danagbese, late Chief Danagbese, Ibim Semenitari, Akimbode Oluwafemi. So we, the younger generations, are people that they've produced to continue to carry on the torch, while most of them are actually even still active. And so what we've done over the years, like I work with children from the informal communities. We've had people that are extremely outstanding. I will admit that sometimes some fall by the way because of the influence of the environment. Then there are children that are extremely, extremely outstanding. So we've made conscious effort to mentor these children. And one of the first things I did in Makoko when I started working with them in 2013, 2014, was to start the Girls Go for Greatness. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Please go
Hello?
ahead. I'm here. Please go ahead.
All
Go
right, thank
ahead.
you very much. Okay, all right. So what I started when I started with CEE-HOPE in Makoko in 2013, 2014 was to start the Girls Go for Greatness Club, and our work actually like 75%, 75 to 80% of our work is focused on young people, the rights and development of young people, especially young people that do not have um, opportunities, that do not have access to opportunities, and so we'll continue to mentor them. And over the years, we've seen some of them doing so well. There's a young man from Makoko who is one of the best videographer in town now. we started. I think the first time he came in contact with computer, like with a computer unit, was 2017 when we had the summer school training in their community in Makoko. And he's doing so well. 2017, 2018, yeah, 2018. He's doing so well. In 2019, one of our young girls from Monkey Village was selected to represent Nigeria in the United Nations in United UNICEF 30th anniversary in Switzerland, and everything was set, but they refused to give her to even process passport for her. They didn't believe that she was going to represent Nigeria because they saw that she was poor. Her father who came, she had a hijab. Her father who came with her was a taxi driver, and I wasn't at home. I was schooling in England at the point, and so before we knew, it was already too late. Both last year and this year, a young person from Makoko in the name of Titi Ajimuda, who was the coordinator of our girls empowerment club in Makoko, represented Nigeria in Norway both last year and this year in an international youth climate conference. And so we run a women's shelter, and one of and the shelter officer, it's a young woman from Makoko who started working with us when she was 13. She's 22 now. She just got a 5-year scholarship to Unilag from Miss Kaderia Ahmed. She's a shelter officer, and she's one of our vibrant staff. And the coordinator of our office in Makoko is also from Makoko. She also started working with us when she was about 10 years. I think she's 20 now or so. Yeah. So I mean, she started. She started coming for our program. She became a member of the Girls Empowerment Club when she was 10 years. She's now the coordinator of our community and ICT center in Makoko. And apart from other young persons that will be inspired, annually we do this what we call the CEE-HOPE annual summer school. It's a multi-state program, and we do it this year. We did it 6 states: Lagos, Ogun, Benue, Rivers, Ebonyi, and Abuja. And in each of the centers, we had over 300 children. So there are mentoring sessions, there are brush up classes for math and English, there are ICT center skills classes. They do it for 2 weeks every year, every August. And it's one of the programs that we've consciously created to mobilize young people, inspire them, empower them academically in craft, so they can be financially independent because of the background that most of them come from. In while they are schooling, they can use the vocations, the crafts, the skills to make money, and not deviate from your studies and all of that. So and we continue to do all of this in Uyo. Next week I'm going to be in Uyo to speak at a program we call a School of Ecology, curated by my boss Nimobasi, to talk to people about environment. And most of the time they're young people, so they bring them together to talk to them about ideologies of Martin Luther King, Ken Saro-Wiwa. Those are conscious ways of modeling young people, inspiring them in the path of activism, especially so they can know the truths about the injustices around them and be able to speak truth to power, and to be able to fight for their rights and the right of others around them without resorting to violence. We believe that non-violence advocacy goes a very, very long way. And so we will make conscious effort to model, mentor young people, because we're not going to be always here. We're not like Nigerian politicians. They want to be in power till they die on top of power, and then when they know
You you
they're
don't have
replaced
to go there, right?
by
If you
children.
didn't
Yeah.
go there, it won't be you.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe that activists and other persons should, I mean, do better. Should do better in terms of raising people that take over from there. And they may not necessarily be their family members, and most of the time, family members may not even be interested in what you do because they see the sacrifices and all of that. But we have to make
Thank you
conscious
very much.
effort
Thank
to raise
you.
younger people. Yes.
Thank you, Betty. It's good for people to know that you can start from somewhere, and it's good that you're mentoring, and it's good that you people are thinking about passing on the baton to
Yeah.
younger generations. But it's actually very sad that in this day and age, at a time like this, someone is being discriminated against because of their background, where they live, who their parents are, and all of that. All of us, which is why what you said in the beginning is very, very key. We are first and foremost human beings and must be treated as such. God can decide to give super brain power to a kid in Makoko that a kid in Banana Island can never dream of. You can't
Yes.
question that, you
Yes.
know. And so we must learn to accept people for who they are and what they bring on the table. I am so sad that that child wasn't given the necessary support to have gone
Yes.
to represent Nigeria. But we will keep striving and we will get there. Now let's drill in. You know, since we've just been dancing around this conversation, let's drill down now. You spent so many years working in places like Makoko and all of that and everything. Can you please tell us why, you know, in your own opinion, your observation, why do cases of gender based violence continue to rise despite increased awareness and advocacy? I mean, just lately, we all were there. We saw the one that was just going on, um, justice for China, you know. And every day you open the Facebook or any of the social media platforms, be it Instagram, be it Twitter, you'll either is one gender violence based violence thing or the other against children, girls, women. Why is it on the rise?
Thank you very much. I would say that it's about the system. First of all, gender-based violence is very high in rural communities and in some of the informal settlements because most of the time they are detached from the system. Just as they are
Mm,
detached in terms of infrastructural development, opportunities like educational opportunities and other developmental opportunities, they are also detached in terms of enforcement of the law enforcement. In communities in Makoko, the police don't go there. In communities in Makoko, environmental officials don't go there. But they say, oh, these places are dirty, these places are lawless. But you don't even go there. Somehow you detach yourself from there. And so when people know that you don't belong, you are detached from the rest of the world. Some criminally minded people will want to resort to impunity. They want to hurt others because it's all about consequences. They know that there would be no consequences. In some communities in Lagos, I don't want to name now. They are my people, so they won't come after me. What I've
please.
discovered over the years is that they are governed by local chiefs, and when rape takes place, the culprit is dragged to the local chief. The local chief is the immediate authority figure in that community. So the person is dragged to the local chief, and then the local chief say, okay, just bring goats. I'm finding you goat and 20,000 naira. So he goes and bring goat and 20,000 naira. So when I talked to them, I said, you are not handing this person to the appropriate authority, to the police, and then to be tried by the court to serve as deterrence. Now, this person knows that the highest he can always get away with offering a goat to the chief and maybe a carton of beer and 20,000 naira. So he's going to build a pen for goats. You have like 20 goats, and he's going to continue raping your children. And one day it can be the turn of the child or the grandchild of the chief. That you need to do the right thing, hand over the person. We've had those conversations in Makoko, in Otoilogo before it was demolished, in Bariga and other places. I say you need to ensure the enforcement of the law. It's only the enforcement of the law that makes people to stay away from committing crimes. The difference between places like the UK, for instance, just let's say the UK, because the UK, they frown at such cases, anything having to do with women and girls, the law comes after you, no matter who you are. You can see that the Andrew, the son of Queen Elizabeth, late Queen Elizabeth, has just been removed from, stripped of all his royal entitlement because he was associated with Epstein, who was said to be bringing underage girls to their parties. Just that optics alone, that royalty cannot be associated with that kind of thing, because the UK is very, very serious in terms of dealing with pedophiles and all of that. So when you know that you are in the, let's juxtapose the UK and Nigeria, for instance. When you know that you in the UK, you rape a girl and you're going to spend 40 years of your life in prison. You are 50 years and you may not even have up to 40 years. Some people are giving like 3 lifetimes. Even if you die again, you come back, you're going to jail. if you are going to get that kind of sentence and then you want to rape someone and maybe have 5 minutes enjoyment, it's not even enjoyment when the person is in pain and it's resisting. I mean, why would you do that? You say, I beg. If you are that pressed, you look for the nearest sex worker. Who will cooperate with you. That's consensual sex. And just forget about raping small girls. So when people know that the laws will come after them and that what they will get is far more, the consequence is so much grave compared to whatever joy, whatever joy, I don't know if it's joy, that they think they derive from, committing rape. So they just try to hold themselves. So I tell people all the time, I said, it's not as if the libido of the people, the men in African countries is higher than those of the West. The West is exposed so much to pornography and all of that. So you cannot even say they don't have it. They have it, but they are afraid of the law. And they'll tell you it is the law. When they tell you it is the law, it is the law. Consequences, no matter who you are, and it's blind to your personality. So it's about the enforcement of the law. And apart from the informal communities and all of that, generally, we keep having issues with the police in particular. Because you take a case to the police station, and it's most likely the officer, the IPO that is assigned to the case is looking at how much can I get from this case. It's not about whose right has been violated. It's not about who has been harmed. It's horrible. So when the rapist, the culprit, comes with a higher amount of money, has a higher paying power, he pays off the police officer. And then we are now the one fighting with the officer. And when the parents of the girl, for instance, that has been raped, defied, it has been compromised because they say, the officer will approach and say, I beg, collect this money. If not, this case will not go anywhere. 5 years, you see, they court. They bring 200,000, and the people have never seen 200,000 in one piece in their life. They collect it, and then they black you out. So the police is fighting you. They've compromised the parents of the victim, and you are just left like in the middle of the high sea. So most of the time, these cases don't go far, except in places like Lagos. You call Punch newspaper, you involve the media, you're on social media, so the police know that anything that has to do with the media, they have to remove their hands. If not, it can cost them their job. So the media has been our saving grace. First of all, the fact that people are detached from law enforcement, especially those in the rural areas. And then secondly, the fact that the law enforcement themselves are compromised. We've had a case before now where a girl was raped, and the girl was raped, was gang raped actually. It was a very horrible situation. She was gang raped, and I got a report somewhere around the Agbado, and not far from my office then at Togba. So we got involved. By the time we got involved, and it was reported to me, the police had fully compromised. They took sides with the 4 young men who gang raped and their parents. The chief who reported the case to me had been approached by the parents of the 4 young men. And he said they brought 200,000 naira to him and said, please take and help us to kill this case. And he said, no. This girl was raped to a point that she became unconscious. We are not even sure if she will survive it. She's currently in the hospital. Let's focus on her recovery. And then they went back and they went to the police. And when they got to the police, you can imagine what happened. The police changed the tune and started fighting the father of the girl. They got to his house early in the morning and arrested him. This is the father whose girl has been gang raped the previous night, whose daughter was in the hospital, had been taken to the hospital unconscious, and she has just recovered. And they locked him up. They beat him up and locked him up because he was asking, why are you beating me? My daughter is no, sorry. He was taken to the hospital and then asked to sign that they were withdrawing the case from the police station. He said, why am I signing the case? This girl is still in the hospital. We don't even know if she's going to survive. Why are you asking me to sign? We don't know if my daughter is going to live. Why should I withdraw the case? And they beat him up at the Agbado C division, the police station there. They beat him up. It was at that point that the village chief called a volunteer, one of our volunteers, who incidentally lives close. His name is Jacqueline. Jacqueline James, and he got in touch with me. And we went to the community, went to the police station. So I came back and I wrote a comprehensive story about it, put it in Premium Times. And once the case got to Premium Times, the commissioner of police then in Ogun State got involved. As at that time, the girl had left the village. She left the hospital and she was being threatened and she fled the village. And the father was being threatened. Even when we went, the father was reluctant to talk to us. The grandmother actually chased us away from the village because they were scared. Imagine someone who had been gang raped and now she's the one that fled the village. The family is living in fear because the police had been compromised and had taken full side with the corporates. And so when it came out in the Premium Times newspaper, they got to the commissioner of police in Ogun State, and all hell was let loose. And he asked, because he was thoroughly embarrassed, why this is possible. So he asked a detachment of policemen to go to the village. They arrested the 3 of the 4 boys, not boys, young men. One of them ran away and then started their prosecution. And they were in detention at Telewero for 6 months. They were being tried at the court. All the family members of the four young men, they sold their houses and left the village. They left that community. It's called Agbado Oja, around Agbado station, close to Lagos here, around the Iju station here. They left the village because they were shamed. The news was all over. And then the policeman, rather than him being tried or sacked, he was transferred to another station. That's what they all of the time. But the girl came back home. At the end of the day, the chief still comes to our program. We started also, like just like the one in Ukeria, we started working, creating awareness about gender-based violence, girl defense skills, karate skill, and all of that with girls in the community. And that was how rape cases, which were very widespread there, very prevalent, drastically reduced in that community. So I think it's about the government, the law enforcement getting closer to the community and showing that they are non-partial and showing that they are determined to fight crime. Secondly, ensuring that we continue to expose the corruption in law enforcement, and also traditional some of these traditional cultural practices that encourage gender-based violence, that encourage wife battery, that encourage all kinds of dehumanization of women and girls.
Thank you very much. When you said it was systemic, I was listening very hard to understand. And honestly, you are right. It goes very, very deep, you know. And I'm still going to keep harping on this first thing you said. We are first humans,
Yeah.
you know. For you to see a little girl being raped by 4 young men and want to twist it, the humanity in you is dead. I don't care the money that they're going to give you. And then to think that the money is 200,000 naira, that is even more shameful for me. You know, you allow a girl's life to be ruined just for a paltry sum of 200,000 naira. I know somebody will say, Ezinne, that's because you are you. But no matter how you equate it, 200,000 naira is so little compared to a young girl's life, her future, her potential, and everything. And so all of us will have to do better and become champions of creating awareness. Because the more we talk about this, the more people get to hear, the more people get to know, then the more they will, it will be in their consciousness, and they will be, I think a bit hesitant in doing these things. And of course, like you said, we must learn to punish um, deviators, people who do these wrong things. I hope she comes back on. Comes back on because I have one question for her before we close out. It's been a long one, with all the glitches we had in the beginning and everything. But one thing that she's just kept saying is that these problems are human problems, are problems that are created by human beings, and that the reason why we get away with such things in Nigeria is because our law is not strict enough. It doesn't punish anything, you know. So you can imagine in a situation where the community is led by a chief, the chief says, "Oh, bring me a goat and bring me a carton of beer." And that exonerates you from raping someone, from marking someone, from marrying someone, from probably even stopping someone's future from going on. Because, I mean, she tells a story about how a girl had to leave the community. You leave all that you are the victim, and then you're still the same one being shamed. And you leave all that you know to go somewhere else, and you do not know how you're going to survive in that place. And your abuser just paid one goat and one carton of beer. That is really, really, really absurd. Really absurd. Really, really unacceptable. I think she's back. I'm going to try to add her on to the on again, and then we can continue. Yes, she's back. That is very unacceptable where you're asking for a carton of beer to exonerate someone who should be doing some time somewhere. Because the more people pay for their actions, then and the news gets spread around, the more everybody will hear, and then they will not be going that route. Welcome back, Betty. It's been a long day and we've talked for a long time, but before I let you go, I want to ask you, um, you this story you shared with us is actually heartbreaking. When you were off, I was saying, can you imagine the girl got raped, the girl got hospitalized, yet the same girl was shamed into leaving the community. In relocating, she might have left her the comfort that she knows, and she may not be able to pick up, and she will live with this for probably all of her life. So, how do you, is there anything you do to help teenagers like this, you know, um, go through trauma, recover from it, build their confidence, and then go on to become all that they're supposed to be in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much. Um, as at the time this happened, the girl ran away from the community and she was just so scared. For her to come back to that community was we leave the child protection network in Ogun State. They tried to reach out to her to empower her. She was so scared. She was really, really scared. So we brought the father and we empowered the father. We remain in touch with the family members. But she ran away, but she's back in the community now. We wanted to offer her psychological support, and Child Protection Network in Abeokuta also wanted to empower her because she learned tailoring. She was learning tailoring at the point, but she was gang raped. She was received to a boy's one of the young men's houses and gang raped when on her way from the tailoring shop where she worked. It's about 6:30 p.m. when it happened in 2014, or was it 15? 2015, yes. So, she ran away. We're not able to reach out to her. But what we were able to reach out to her dad and to empower her dad. But what we've done over the years, because of how prevalent uh, domestic violence, sexual violence, gender-based violence in general is in the country, was setting up a shelter for abused women and girls. Luckily for us, we got in touch with a group from Switzerland, and we're partnering with them, and we started the shelter in 2021. It's one of the few, like 5 or 6 shelters we have in Lagos. It's one of about under 20 shelter for women that you have in the country for abused women and girls. So you have women, especially suffering domestic violence. You have girls. Most of the girls that come is related to rape cases, their stepfathers, their employees, especially house helps and all of that. So we provide counseling for them, psychosocial support. Of course, we provide shelter for them first of all, so they're able to leave the abusive environment. We provide shelter for them, and then some go back to they were able to reunite them to their parents. And then some learn some handwork, and we empower them with the skills: cosmetics, tailoring, hairdressing, different types. We also organize training for women in the shelter. Just in October, we had a training for about 50 women, 3 days training, where they underwent psychosocial support. They had aerobics, they had massaging, they had counseling sessions, and then they learned skills. And at the end of the day, we gave each of them grants for their businesses. So it's a way of rehabilitating them. It's a way of responding to the trauma that they went through. So it's one of the things that we do. And I would just like to talk a little about our current project on the rights of domestic workers, because majority of the girls that came into our shelter either work as professional domestic workers. There's a lot of underage people working in domestic servitude all over the country. And then some work with their relatives, yeah, especially their aunties, work in their aunties' homes and all of that. Many of them are raped, and they are rescued and brought to the shelter. And then they stay for some time before we reconcile them. Some stay for up to 1 year, 2 years. We put them in school before they are able to, we rejoin them back to their families, and then continue to sponsor them in school. For some of the few cases that have come, we've done that for a few of the cases that have come into the shelter. And so there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of the dehumanization of domestic workers in Nigeria. Many of them undergo physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is extremely rampant. And so we started creating awareness about the rights of domestic workers. And then we interviewed domestic workers, put them on air and all of that. And luckily, we got Rosa Luxemburg Foundation West Africa to support our work on the rights of domestic workers. So apart from radio program, creating awareness, since this year, we've now started mobilizing domestic workers themselves. And we're at the point of starting a union, a national union for them. And it's going to be the first domestic workers union in Nigeria. We have in Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, and in several African countries, but we do not have in Nigeria. And we're hoping that when they are union, they're able to mobilize themselves, they're able to create awareness on what their labor and human rights are. They are able to uh, to articulate their rights and canvass for equal payment and all forms of their labor rights. And luckily for us, there are also law bills at the National Assembly, one in the House of Rep, one in Senate. The one in Senate was just passed last week on the rights of domestic and informal workers in Nigeria. And so we believe that that will go a long way, because the domestic workers that we have in Nigeria, most of them, I can say all of them, there is like no time limit to work. You just work until probably drop dead or you drop asleep. You wake up first in the morning and then you are the last to sleep. Whether they are 6 years old or they're 16 years old, they are 6, 7 years old in domestic servitude in this country. And so when we have domestic workers who have age or are from 18 years, they're part of the domestic union, then they sign contract for how much they're going to be paid, which is the minimum wage, which was also approved last year when the national minimum wage was approved at the National Assembly, was passed at the National Assembly. The Senate president said that included also domestic workers. Some people are swimming in billions. So why are they paying their domestic staff 15,000, 20,000? They should be able to pay 70,000 and above. And so we believe that this will go a very long way. When you know that there's a law on domestic workers and on domestic workers' rights and their domestic workers union, you cannot maltreat them. You pay them the right wages. They work. They have agreed time that they work from 8 to 5, not that they work around the clock. And then there are specific tasks that they are paid to do. But in homes, you have domestic workers. They plait hair, they cook, they wash. If the mom or the dad of the of the man of the house is there, the grandpa or the grandma, they become caregivers. They are the car washers, they're the gardeners, they do everything. There has to be specific agreed task, there has to be contract and all of that, just as it's done in other countries. So it will reduce servitude, domestic servitude for domestic workers. Because what's going on in many homes in Nigeria today is modern day slavery. So the domestic workers campaign, we believe that it will be successful, and that when the law is passed, then the domestic workers will not only have unions of their own, legal frameworks on which they can enforce their rights if need be, because of this widespread violation of rights. So we're really having the development in the National Assembly that the House of Rep will pass the bill and that it can be enforced. Because the problem with Nigeria is we have so many laws that majority are not enforced. There's even widespread awareness of what their rights are, not to mention going out to enforce those rights. So we believe that with these campaigns, people will be able to successfully mobilize domestic workers all across the country. We know they work in isolation and all of that, but we're hoping that since other countries have succeeded in bringing them together, we'll be able to start from somewhere. And it will just make a difference.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited hearing this. I was going to ask you that what are the biggest barriers preventing advocacy efforts from becoming actual policy changes in Nigeria? So I'm excited to hear that stuff is being done. However, I'm going to close on this note. A lot of you in this space are working, so to say, in silos. There are different things, there are different things. When you talk to someone, you hear different stuff. Everybody means good, everybody wants good, but you're not all united and singing from one point. And so therefore, we're going to have to we'll see being signed in several policies on the same matter. The problem becomes, which one do we follow? Which one is the law? Which one is the right thing? Which one should we champion? Which one are we going to educate the people on? Because it's important to make it as simple. I'm so happy you've been using the UK for an example. One thing I know that works in the UK is that everyone is educated in very simple terms. They just do this thing in little leaflets that you can grab it at every point in the stores, at the train stations, everywhere. You find it and you get educated, you read. And when you keep reading over and over, maybe an acronym can be formed or something that we can be singing over and over and over until it gets drummed into our heads that this is a no-no and you cannot do this. And if you do this, you get this repercussion. Your job is one that is tedious and almost thankless. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time today thanking you and thanking every other person who works in the space that you do. Thank you for being that voice that we need. And we hope that your voices collectively will one day bring about the change that you desire and that you are putting everything on the line for, so that our children can walk safe, so that we don't have to look behind us. But it's not on, but we too, and when I mean we too, we humans, mothers, we fathers, we need to also do our own bit, and we do not do stuff that endangers our children. So we need to understand this and begin to teach from home, so that we can also help you and make your job easier. So thank you again, Betty. Please, can I have your closing remarks for every single one of us? Go as the flow leads you. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. I would say, first of all, thank you for bringing me in here. I really, really appreciate this. And you said the Holy Spirit told you to bring me. It's a big flattery. I'm really, really flattered. And I think that God, I believe God will have a word for someone today who needs to hear this and be encouraged, especially people who want to work in the advocacy space, to encourage them that one person can make a difference and that they should come on, bring it on, and that the stage is theirs and they can make a huge difference with whichever way they're working. People are working in period poverty, amplifying the voices of women and girls who do not have the resources to purchase sanitary products every month, girls who have to stay back from school right now because they have to stay out of school and then they're lag behind, and some actually fall by the wayside and do not go to school. And when we say Nigeria has the highest number of out of school girls, out of school children, predominantly girls, period poverty plays a silent part that many people do not know of. So if you're coming to work in the period poverty space, just take it on. I believe God will make a way and link you to the right persons. Like I said, when you told me last time, I just I just smiled and said, God truly is in control. I wanted to work in the women's space. I was already working in the women's space, and God redirected me to focus on children because children are much more vulnerable. And I resisted the call for about 5 years until I took it up. And God has about 3 years, yeah. And God has been helping me. And someone reached out to me from Atlanta sometimes in July and said, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, every month, the proceeds from your business, donate it to CEE-HOPE. He's a Nigerian, Omawumi in Atlanta. I hope she'll get to see this. She'll not be happy I'm calling out her name. So I believe that anything that has to do with children, with vulnerable people, God is very much concerned and always tries to make a way. And I'm happy that God thinks I'm a vessel that should be used to bring relief to people. And I feel really, really flattered. And I want to put in my best. Like I said, I'm not there yet. So I want to encourage as many people as possible who want to take up this mantle to reach out to people. Just you can make a difference. And the way you said many of you are working in silos, I think that there is much more unity among people working in the advocacy space than people imagine or than people see. They may not say it all of the time. We've been able to get to where we are now because of support. I keep mentioning my bosses, Nimobasi, Akimbodi Oluwafemi. And there's a woman that has supported me. And each time I write, almost every year, I write on my Facebook page and I say, you are one of the best humans I've met in Lagos. And I'm really happy I encountered you. Bola Sot, Essie Nelson. We call her Madam Sot. Amazing, amazing woman. The, the support she's given our women's shelter as a Nigerian is unparalleled in terms of bringing relief items to our shelter, bringing all kinds of support. She runs a women's shelter as well. But sometimes facilities are coming to her shelter, some kind of support. She say, oh no, just take it to Betty, take it to Heart of Hope. It's amazing. So we get a lot of support, especially from fellow women. We get a lot. But people say, oh, women fight women. Maybe not in the advocacy space as such. We get a lot of support. There are funding opportunities. Okay, why don't you try? You may get it, you may not get it. So, and we get a lot of mentorship. So I think that there's much more support than people see, but it could get better. It could get, and it's getting better. So I want to thank everyone who has supported us all along the way. Some don't want their names mentioned. And like I say all the time, our biggest support are not institutional. Our biggest support come from individuals. And it's made a whole lot of difference, a whole lot of difference. Because some institutional funders do not understand what we're doing. How can you be advocating for human rights and all of that, and then you're paying children's school fees, you're doing scholarship, you're doing women empowerment, putting money in people's hands? And I say that most of the people that we work with are the fringes. Some are in your meeting, they have no idea what their children are going to eat for lunch or dinner. So if you are in a position and you have the resources to empower their businesses, why don't you do that? We talk about educational rights, but sometimes government does not respond on time. And when you have the resources to enroll those children in school, why don't you do that? I mean, and ensure that they get the school materials and even the pocket money. And when you have the resources to get pads for girls, while we're fighting for national policy on menstrual hygiene, which are just
Is it me? It's frozen on this part. Let's hope that she comes back on. Okay, she's frozen.
hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You
It
were
just
frozen
stopped.
for
The
a
phone
while.
just stopped. Sorry, the
Yeah,
phone just stopped. So I
okay.
believe that our biggest funders, our biggest supporters are individuals, not even institutional, because the institutional funders sometimes do not understand why we're mixing advocacy with charity. And we tell them we're working with the poorest, the most vulnerable sex. If we have the resources, like we do with the SHA, and then with scholarship and with women livelihood empowerment. Of course, we'll have that. And so some of the funders, the institutional funders, don't see the direction we're going, but we know the direction we're going. And we get most of our support from individuals, and we're really happy. We're hoping that it could get better. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen, even with the glitches back and forth. And we hope that this inspires you to reach out to your neighbors at what level that you can, at whatever level you can, in whatever space that you can, because there's so much suffering in the land. And if you can reach out in terms of services, in terms of giving, in terms of speaking out against the misgovernance, in terms of speaking truth to power, advocating for good governance, I think it makes so much difference. I do not hesitate to do that. I believe that God will give us the grace to keep going, and that the people who rule over us, God will give them the fear to do things by us, to right by the populace, the citizens, and that Nigeria will get better. So I'm really, really happy for this opportunity. Really, really extremely happy. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you very much, Betty. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I know how long it took us to plan this. I know how busy your schedule is. I know how you are everywhere doing everything for every other person to live meaningfully as much as they can. Your courage, your resilience, your relentless compassion, it's unquantifiable. And we say thank you. Thank you for using your voice, your pen to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The fringes, you call them. But God Almighty will bless you and continue to prosper you. Your work reminds us every day that advocacy is not just a calling, it is a responsibility, and one that all of us should share in. Every single person should become of what is good. Reminding us again that first and foremost, that we're all first before any other thing humans, and we must take a human approach to solve the systemic problem that we have encouraged and allowed to fester as long as this. Okay, thank you. To everyone listening, let today's conversation remind you that one voice can spark a movement, and it can be your voice. Like Eugenia Abu reminded us or taught us at the conference this year, your voice is a very powerful instrument. Someone listens to your voice. All you need to do is reach one person. If every woman can speak to one person, we will have more people aware, more people knowledgeable, more people ready, poised to do what is right. So please don't swallow your voice. Don't let it just stay in your throat. Open your mouth and use it. If you don't want to speak your voice, write your voice. If you don't want to speak your voice, you don't want to write your voice, show up for your voice. But don't just stay on the fence. Don't do that. It's not right. It's not nice. Because you know what? I keep telling people, you only know today, you don't know tomorrow. That child that raped someone yesterday, that was part of a gang that raped someone yesterday, can encounter your child in future and become your son-in-law and begin to rape your own child. There's a way the metrics go. So we need to do the right thing so that we don't get into, further challenges or something like that. Yeah. So one step can start a change. In this stream today can start a change. Somebody can see it and say, oh, okay. Because honestly, today I learned a lot from Betty. There's so much. Ignorance is not an excuse, they say, but there's so much she shed light on today that I didn't know before now. So share the stream, talk to one woman today about this. Tag Betty, follow her on Facebook. And then if you can make her lot easier, please send your, not your might, send your largesse her way, because she has people that she needs to take care of. So ask her, send messages to CEE-HOPE and say, what can I do for you? I'd like to take on the responsibility for one woman, one girl. That is woman helping woman. That is human being human. That is making sure that people's futures are not stalled by the things that happen to them. We all say, hey, you're not defined by what happened to you. And let's help them not to be defined by what happened to them. Let's put resources in the hands of the people who need them so they can help us. Because frankly, a broken woman is a broken nation. If she does not help us repair these women, and these women come out and begin to have children in the society, they can only teach what they know. So you and I will be putting our monies to good use if we send it her way. Okay? I will on the stream and put some some information that I would take from her offline and put it out there so that all of us can see it and everybody can begin to respond. But please share the stream. Thank you for staying as long as you have stayed. This is probably the longest we have ever had any show, but that is the way it rolled, and that is the way we roll as well. We go with the flow. Thank you, everyone, for coming on. Until next time, keep rising, keep pushing, and keep becoming. My name, as always, Rekanem, and it has been Up You. And from Betty and myself, it's Up You. Take care and
Bye.
bye. Bye.